The raid starts, and already one of the hunters is about to have a complete meltdown. Because they're not fighting some low-level mob, they've walked straight into a boss-level nightmare. Yeah, no kidding, Sherlock. This easy mission is turning into a total wipeout. With reinforcements missing and death on the line, a lone figure steps out from the chaos. And with 2 simple words, he commands the entire battlefield. He unleashes a storm of absolute power, shredding the monster in a single devastating move. The team can't believe their eyes. The rumors about him were true. And our streamer friend just hit the content jackpot because he's broadcasting this legend live. This isn't just any high ranker. This is the infamous Hunter of Hunters. That's right, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Gi Shinbaek has entered the game. While the world worships him, we cut to someone who clearly couldn't care less. And with one look, you can tell this isn't admiration, it's pure resentment. Flashback to his graduation, where the world's greatest hunter couldn't even bother to show up for his own son. And of course, some clueless classmate just has to rub salt in the wound. He throws out a weak excuse, but the lie hangs heavy in the air. And for the final twist of the knife, they ask him to photograph the one thing he'll never have. Forced to frame a perfect family portrait while his own is completely shattered. He takes the picture, but that cold, hard look in his eyes tells you he's accepted his fate. He walks home to an empty house, the excuse, "My dad's busy," echoing in the silence. He steps inside only to be greeted by a voice that changes everything. It's his mom, and the look on her face tells you this family is drowning in sorrow. Because she's been a full-time caretaker for his older sister, who's been trapped in a deep sleep. A sleep that has lasted for 12 long, agonizing years. So when he finally confronts her, all that pent-up resentment comes pouring out. But her excuse is the one thing he can't stand to hear. It's always about his sister. He completely snaps, because for just one day, he wanted to be the one who mattered. As his anger boils over, a cold, sharp voice cuts right through the tension. And speak of the devil, the busy dad is home, looking like he just walked off a battlefield. Forget a warm welcome. He gets a stone-cold threat for daring to raise his voice. And with one last look of pure contempt, the world's greatest hunter proves he's the world's worst father. Fueled by pure rage, he storms out, declaring he'll train until he breaks. But his father isn't done twisting the knife, hitting him with a condescending "still?" And then comes the final blow. You'll never be a hunter because you have no talent. The world's greatest hero tells his son to just give up and disappear. So he does the only thing he can. He goes to the gym to fight the man he despises, even if it's just a proxy. His raw fury immediately catches the eye of the gym's owner, who knows he's looking at something special. Because this isn't just training. This is a declaration of war against his own bloodline. Every single strike is fueled by a desperate promise. I will prove you wrong. He's getting absolutely dominated, but the fire in his eyes refuses to go out. And right at his breaking point, a mysterious power erupts from his very soul. The gym owner sees the chains, and for a split second, he's actually impressed. Taegyong thinks he's finally landed a hit, a single victory against the world that's crushed him. But that little smirk on his opponent's face says, "Nice try, kid." And just like that, his newfound power shatters like cheap glass. The look on his face says it all. His one shot at proving his dad wrong just went up in smoke. He's not just outmatched, he's being played with like a toy. And to add insult to injury, the gym owner hits him with the ultimate condescending praise. Turns out, having a legendary power doesn't mean much if you don't know how to use it. He's so desperate, he's literally begging the guy to stop being so overpowered. And after all that rage and humiliation, the fight ends with an invitation to dinner. The guy who just wiped the floor with him is now buying him dinner, but Taegyong's pride is a little hard to swallow. But our boy isn't here for a free meal. He's already demanding a rematch. Rest? For him, that's a 4-letter word because he knows he's running out of time. He's seen the competition, and they're talking cheat codes with powers he can only dream of. And in a moment of pure desperation, he admits the one thing he's terrified of. He's not good enough. Because this whole insane death wish isn't about glory. It's about getting one single nod from the man who broke him. He can't rest because home isn't a sanctuary. It's just another battlefield. But the gym owner drops a truth bomb that hits harder than any punch. He tells him that without a safe place to fall, you're just one bad day away from completely breaking. And just as that sinks in, we're ripped away to a protest that's about to change the entire world. While Taegyong's world falls apart, a new kind of monster is being hunted on the streets. Humans who returned from other worlds. These returnees are being branded as invaders, and public hatred is reaching a boiling point. And leading the charge is a man screaming a message of pure, unadulterated fear. His cry that this is not their home cuts deep, because for Taegyong's family, home has been a hospital room for 12 years. The gym owner's words echo with bitter irony. Home is supposed to be a sanctuary, but for our boy, it's a war zone. As the world screams, go back to hell, Taegyong pulls out his phone, hoping for one single piece of good news. But what he gets is a rejection letter from the one academy that could have changed his life. The words "not accepted" hit him like a physical blow as the world itself tells him to give up. And just like the gym owner predicted, when things get tough, he has absolutely nowhere to turn. So he finally snaps, smashing the last of his hope into a million pieces on the wet pavement. He screams at the world because for him, life is already a living hell. He roars into the rain, demanding to know where a failure like him is even supposed to go. The rage finally burns out, leaving him empty and defeated on the cold, wet steps. He's hit rock bottom with nothing left to lose, until a single sound cuts through the silence. Through the wreckage of his hope, a single call gets through. It's his mom. He answers, his voice barely a whisper, completely unprepared for what he's about to hear. But the news on the other end is so impossible, his brain can't even process it. He sprints to the hospital, and the scene waiting for him is something straight out of a dream. After 12 agonizing years, the miracle they stopped praying for has finally happened. His sister is awake. But as his mother cries tears of relief, you see the one person who can still turn this miracle into a nightmare. He finally sees her, the ghost his family sacrificed everything for, and she's real. But this miracle comes with an immediate price tag, and our boy is not ready to pay. Mom's already laying it on thick. The family that suffers together is now expected to care for her together. But Taegyong's not having it. His new life was supposed to be about him, and he's not giving that up. He doesn't just refuse, he denies she's even his sister, throwing 12 years of sacrifice right back in their faces. And just like clockwork, Dad of the Year steps in to play the hero, only to get a face full of pure, unfiltered rage. But as the two alpha males tear the room apart, a tiny, frail voice cuts right through the noise. For the first time in 12 years, his sister speaks. And her first words are a desperate plea for her broken family to just stop fighting. And just like that, the girl in the bed has more power than the world's strongest hunter, shutting them all down with a single sentence. He tries to play the big brother, but the look in his eyes says he's the one who's completely lost. And with that, the war at home settles into a cold, silent truce. So now he's pulling mandatory family duty, but this isn't a reunion, it's a hostage situation. Mom hoped this would bring them closer, but his sister looks more like a prisoner than a patient. And our boy's idea of bonding is building a wall of silence one page at a time. But family duty doesn't stop the grind. His war against his father is still priority number one. He's still haunted by his failures, a constant reminder that the world has already written him off. He drags himself back to the hospital, convinced that nothing he does will ever change his fate. But when he opens the door, he finds an empty bed and a chilling breeze. Because the miracle sister he never wanted is suddenly impossibly gone. He finds her sitting alone on a park bench, looking like a ghost who's forgotten her own haunting grounds. He finally tracks her down, but his relief comes out as pure, unfiltered panic. Turns out, the miracle recovery room felt more like a prison cell she had to escape. But her simple request to stay outside a little longer completely short-circuits his brain. So now they're stuck in the most awkward family reunion ever, separated by a silence 12 years in the making. She finally breaks the ice but calls him by a name that isn't his, and suddenly, this story has a brand new mystery. And then she drops the emotional atom bomb. Do you hate me? Her reason? He's not the little brother she remembers. He's become something cold and intimidating. She even says he's just like their dad now, which is the one comparison guaranteed to make his blood run cold. But that look in her eyes tells you this isn't just about him. She's hiding a secret that's been buried for 12 long years. She lays out the brutal reality of waking up 12 years late. Everyone's moved on, and she's been left behind. And as he listens, something inside him cracks. She finally breaks down, admitting she feels completely alone in a world that forgot she existed. And that one word hits him like a ton of bricks because he knows exactly how that feels. So he does what he does best. He gets defensive, trying to brush off a pain that's way too familiar. But for the first time, he's not pushing her away. He's actually trying to pull her back from the edge. He's basically giving her the pep talk he wishes someone had given him. And in trying to save her, he accidentally ends up saving himself. He's not just comforting his sister anymore, he's reigniting his own war. And with one quiet word, the ice between them finally begins to thaw. He tries to bring things back to reality, but he's about to find out reality just left the building. Because his sister doesn't need a wheelchair when she can literally break the laws of physics. Yeah, that 12-year sleep wasn't a coma. It was a full-blown isekai adventure to the fairy realm. And just like that, the talentless son discovers his sister is the one who hit the genetic jackpot. Suddenly, those protests against returnees from another world feel a little too close to home. His father's cruel words come crashing back, a bitter reminder of the talent he was told he'd never have. And the universe just loves to rub it in, showing him the one person with all the power is the sister he resented. He's left sitting in the dark, watching the miracle he never wanted literally float out of his league. The look on his face says it all. His entire world has just been flipped and he's not on top. But the family drama is cut short by a scene of pure panic, because back at the hospital, Mom knows something is terribly wrong. We flash back to a time before the tragedy, when the biggest problem was getting dirt on your clothes. But this isn't just a sweet memory. It's the calm before the storm that shatters their entire world. Because that promise of tomorrow was a lie, and this playground would soon become a ghost of a memory. The happy past fades into the broken present, a perfect picture of a family torn apart by time and trauma. We get a glimpse of the life they lost, the simple, chaotic moments that were stolen from them. A family dinner, a mother's smile, all memories from a life that no longer exists. This is it, the final peaceful night before everything changes forever. Her last thought as a normal kid is a simple one. What should we play tomorrow? Little did she know her tomorrow was about to be postponed for 12 long years. And just like that, her sleep is interrupted by a visitor who is definitely not from around here. This wasn't a coma, it was a job offer from another dimension. Her mission? Save the world. The catch? She only thought she was gone for 6 months, but when she came back, her little adventure had cost her 12 years of her life. And just like that, the family reunion is crashed by government agents who label her a returnee. Their proof? The power-sealing tech that stops normal hunters doesn't even scratch her. So the interrogation begins, and they want to know everything about her little trip to fairyland. She tells them about learning magic, survival skills, and the one rule that mattered most. How to survive the one person who ruled that world with an iron fist, the Queen. She claims her ticket home was just giving the Queen a good scolding, but that innocent smile is hiding something big. And the agent puts it all together. Scolding is a nice word for I ended the Queen's reign permanently. She tries to play it down, but her panicked face screams, I'm a terrible liar. But the agent isn't buying it, because in his book, returnee is just another word for unregistered nuke. And just outside the door, Taegyong overhears the one truth that will change everything. The agent drops the final bomb. His sister isn't just powerful, she's stronger than an S-class hunter. And in that moment, the talentless son realizes the genetic lottery skipped him entirely. So the government's final verdict? She's on house arrest, and her family are now her official prison guards. And to make sure they comply, the Bureau is sending a hunter to be her full-time warden. As Taegyong walks away, you realize his family just traded one prison for another. But hold on, we cut to a mysterious meeting where someone is being thanked for a very specific inquiry. And it turns out they were talking about Taegyong. His physical stats are great, but the report is about to deliver the butt that will crush him. The report says he's got the body, but when it comes to actually fighting, he's completely useless. His legendary power is literally weaker than a regular set of chains you could buy at a hardware store. So after all that pain and rage, his official rank is F-class, the absolute bottom of the barrel. And just when he's at his lowest, his sister calls him by the wrong name again, a ghost from a past that isn't his. She finds him wallowing in his own failure, completely oblivious to the real reason he's broken. She thinks he's scared of her power, trying to comfort him like he's a lost puppy. She tries to tell him everything's the same, but he's not listening, because for him, everything is worse. And he hits her with 2 words that shatter her entire world. Go away. She's completely stunned, but he just doubles down, telling the sister he barely knows to leave him alone. She's heartbroken, asking why, but she has no idea she's talking to a brother who just had his entire future erased. She just wants to know why, completely clueless that she's poking at a wound that's been festering for years. He can't even say it because the real reason isn't her power, it's his own pathetic weakness. So he unleashes all that self-hatred on the one person who had nothing to do with it. She just survived a 12-year trip to another dimension, only to be emotionally wrecked by her own brother. He's looking at his sister, but all he sees is a living, breathing trophy of the genetic lottery he lost. And with that, he turns his back, shattering the last fragile piece of his broken family. He wanders into the city, a ghost haunting his own life, completely invisible to the world around him. And then comes the bitter smile of a man who realizes he's become the one person he despises, his father. The anger finally cools, leaving him with the cold, hard reality of what he just did. He calls himself pathetic, because he just pushed away the only other person in his family who knows what it's like to be abandoned. But his pity party is cut short by the sound of citywide panic. He follows the chaos only to find a crowd gathered around a fallen hero. And the hero is his father, looking like he just lost a war for the first time in his life. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, his sister is having a rock-bottom moment of her own. Because being told to go away by the brother she just got back hits harder than any dimensional queen. So she decides to take his advice, but not in the way he meant. She doesn't just leave the room. She leaves gravity, sanity, and her prison behind. And in that moment, she's not a patient or a victim. She's a queen surveying her new kingdom. Her first stop? The ghost of their childhood, a playground swallowed by time and darkness. A place that used to be their entire world, now just a painful reminder of the life she can never get back. She's lost in memories of a time before the world broke, when bath time was the biggest adventure. A time when her family was whole, and dinner was a battlefield of smiles, not silence. And her silent grief explodes into a desperate roar to go back to a life that no longer exists. But her pity party is about to be crashed by two strangers who definitely aren't here to reminisce. They corner her, acting like they own the place, but the real question is, do they know who they're talking to? She tries to play dumb, but her hospital pajamas are kind of a dead giveaway that she's not from around here. And of course they hit her with the classic, "This place is too dangerous for a civilian" line, completely underestimating the nuke in a nightgown. She tries to politely decline their help, because explaining she just flew here from the hospital is a bit much. But these guys aren't taking no for an answer, and their escort comes in the form of a full-force attack. The hit lands, but the only thing that shatters is their assumption that this was going to be easy. They're not even a team. They're just fighting over who gets to claim the prize. But the prize isn't staying down, and one twitch of her finger tells you this fight is far from over. The thugs stop dead in their tracks because the girl they just took down is doing the one thing she's not supposed to. She's getting back up, and their confidence just took a nosedive. But she's not angry. She's terrified because she has no idea why a full-force attack felt like a love tap. He's wondering why his bat didn't work, and she's wondering why these strangers are attacking her in the first place. But they don't care about why. They just see a target that's tougher than she looks, and that makes her more fun. So she pulls out the oldest trick in the book, threatening to shoot with nothing but her bare hands. They laugh, calling her crazy, completely missing the lethal energy crackling at her fingertips. And just as she's about to unleash hell, we flash back to where she learned her very first spell. Her first lesson in magic? A simple spell called archery. She was taught that it was a harmless spell, nothing to be afraid of. It's not supposed to be lethal, it just stuns your opponent for a second. But the agent's warning comes crashing back. When you return to Earth, your powers change. And these two idiots are about to find out what change really means. Because her harmless spell just erased one of them from existence. She looks at her hands completely horrified because she has no idea what she just did. And as one family member discovers a terrifying new power, the other finds his father completely broken. The invincible hunter of hunters is carrying a fallen comrade, defeated and exposed. And of course, our favorite streamer is right there, broadcasting the fall of a legend to the entire world. The question hangs in the air, but his eyes aren't on his fallen friend. They're scanning the crowd. And in a sea of faceless onlookers, Taegyong stands frozen, witnessing the one thing he never thought he'd see. His father's failure. Their eyes lock, and in that one look, the world's greatest hunter becomes just a father who's found his runaway son. But this isn't a family reunion. It's a crime scene, and the body on the ground is a grim reminder of what happens when heroes fail. And of course, Dad's first words aren't, "Are you okay?" but a stone-cold accusation. He asks if this is his first time seeing the aftermath, and our boy lies through his teeth, hiding the fact that his sister just caused a scene of her own. But his father isn't here for small talk. He's here to deliver a lecture in the form of a single chilling number. He lays out the brutal math of being a hunter, where your best-case scenario is just surviving the day. This isn't a warning to be careful. It's a final, crushing attempt to tell his son to just give up. He grabs his son, not in comfort, but to force him to look at the world he's so desperate to join, a world built on loss. And then Dad hits him with the one question designed to break him completely. For the first time, our boy admits the one truth he's been running from. He's not strong enough. And his father, seeing his son finally break, twists the knife one last time with a look of pure pity. He walks away, not in anger, but in total, soul-crushing acceptance. Because he realizes his father was right all along. He's always been a failure. He's forced to face his own useless, shattered abilities, and the cold, hard truth of a world that will chew him up and spit him out. The heroes on the screen aren't an inspiration anymore. They're a monument to his own failure. He's so lost, he can't even remember the kid who used to dream of being one of them. With his anger gone and his spirit broken, he's left with the one question that terrifies him most. What now? He's ready to give up on his dream, but the universe is about to show him what real power looks like. His rock-bottom moment is interrupted by a sight so impossible, his brain can't even catch up. He finally recognizes his runaway sister, but the girl floating down is not the one he left behind. Because this isn't his frail, lost sister. This is a terrifying, blood-soaked goddess. He snaps out of his stupor, thinking she's the one in danger, completely oblivious to the real threat. But she's not hurt. She's recoiling in horror from what she's just done. And her first words aren't a greeting, they're a desperate, panicked warning. Because the person she's trying to protect him from is herself. And in that flash of light, he realizes the stains on her clothes were never her own. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, every alarm is about to go off, because their S-class prisoner is officially off the leash. The harmless spell just leveled the entire playground. And the hospital's PA system just confirmed their S-class nuke has officially gone missing. The suspicious person they're warning everyone about is his sister, and she's having a full-blown magical meltdown. He screams at her to stop, but he's not trying to save the city. He's trying to save her from herself. But she's not in control anymore, begging an enemy only she can see to just let her go. Because her power isn't just out of control, it's actively trying to turn her brother into its next victim. And in a flash of dark energy, she's about to give him the one thing he never wanted, a real fight. The official report will say she's a threat, indiscriminately attacking the public. And the official punishment for a rogue returnee is immediate on-site execution. With his dad too far and the police too slow, the F-rank failure realizes he's the only one who can stop her. The attack connects, and for a split second it looks like he's just another victim in her path. He's not just outmatched, he's staring down a god and his brain is screaming one simple truth: he can't win. So he does the only logical thing an F-rank can do when faced with an S-class meltdown: he runs. He tells himself it's not his fault, because abandoning his sister is better than being erased with her. But as he flees, something inside him snaps, and the coward he was a second ago is suddenly gone. Because he's not just some random bystander anymore, he's her brother, and that changes everything. While he has his epiphany, his sister is completely lost, hating the world and the power that's consuming her. She's begging to be free, not from her enemies, but from the monster she's become. But through all that chaos, his voice cuts through, and for a single moment she remembers who she is. And the F-rank failure charges headfirst into an S-class catastrophe because saving his family is the one fight he refuses to lose. He's screaming through the pain, trying to reach the sister buried under all that power, because he finally understands what his father never did. Being a hero isn't about winning. It's about showing up when it counts, and right now he's the only hunter on the scene. But as he tries to talk her down, she asks the one question that cuts him to the core. Why? She can't understand why he'd save her because in her mind, she's already a monster. And just as her power is about to overwhelm her, a memory from another world cuts through the chaos. We're ripped back to the fairy realm, where she wasn't a monster but a legend. The fairies called her their savior, the one who saved their entire world. But even back then, she couldn't accept the title of hero. Because she knows the truth. She may have saved their world, but she's completely lost in her own. She confesses her deepest fears to the fairy queen. She's a dangerous killer with no one to turn to. But the queen hits her with a truth she's never considered. Because at least one person doesn't hate her. The brother who's literally walking through hell just to pull her back. And in that memory, the queen gives her one final command. Go back to where you belong. And in the present, her brother is making sure she does. The storm finally breaks, leaving two broken kids in the wreckage, surrounded by the flashing lights of their consequences. She's not a monster anymore, just a little sister who's finally home. And in that moment, the F-rank failure realizes he's finally found the one thing worth fighting for. But their reunion is cut short by a new player entering the game, and his first word is a threat. And that new player? He just spotted the one kid who walked through an S-class meltdown and lived to tell the tale. The official story is a cover-up, burying the night's chaos under a thin layer of police tape. And while the world forgets, his sister's reward for saving her brother is a one-way ticket to a government black site. But her solitary confinement is about to be interrupted by a visitor she never expected. The fire in her eyes is gone, replaced by the cold, hard look of a girl who's accepted her cage. She's not a patient anymore. She's a national security threat, and this is her permanent escort. But the only thing she can think about is the one person she hurt the most, her mother. And her first visitor isn't mom or dad, but the brother she almost erased from existence. She's completely shocked, because the last thing she expected was to see the boy she almost destroyed. But that look on his face isn't forgiveness. It's the cold, hard stare of a man with a plan. The family reunion continues in a government black site, and the silence is so heavy it has its own gravity. But she's so broken, she can't even get his name right, accidentally calling him the one person they both despise. He cuts right through her confusion with a bombshell of his own. I'm here to bail you out. Because our F-rank failure pulled a pro-gamer move and hired a mind reader to get the real story. And the truth is, her meltdown wasn't a random act of violence at all. It was self-defense, a fact that's about to blow this whole case wide open. She's completely lost because justified use of force isn't exactly a spell they teach you in fairyland. He tells her she's free to go, but she's still haunted by the one thing she can't take back. She thinks she's a killer. And then he drops the final plot twist. The guy she vaporized is perfectly fine. He looks her dead in the eye and gives her the one thing she thought she'd never have again, a clean slate. The weight of the world finally lifts, and for the first time in 12 years, she's actually free. But our boy's relief isn't emotional. It's the cold, calculated satisfaction of a plan perfectly executed. And just as the siblings have their moment, the government lady cuts in to remind them this isn't a family reunion. Taekyung isn't even fazed. The broken kid from yesterday is officially gone. Turns out freedom isn't free, but a hospital bill is a small price to pay for getting away with S-class property damage. But the agent's gratitude comes with a cryptic warning, hinting that this happy ending is built on a very fragile foundation. And then she drops the real bomb. The perfectly fine victim is actually dead. The biggest twist isn't the lie, it's that our boy was the one who told it, bearing the truth to protect her. She walks away, believing in her second chance, completely oblivious to the monster her brother is hiding for her. And just when you think it's over, the agent hands him a mysterious envelope that's about to change the game all over again. But this isn't just a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's a message delivered straight to the world's worst dad. And his first response isn't relief, it's pure rage, demanding to know who dared to interfere with his family. And the puppet master pulling the strings is none other than our favorite chip-eating, sideline-coaching gym owner. Meanwhile, the F-rank failure is back at the gym, turning his useless power into a weapon, one link at a time. His new training isn't about raw power. It's about control, turning his pathetic chains into precision weapons. And for the first time, his power actually works, taking down its first ever victims, a row of defenseless soda cans. He's pouring his heart and soul into training, but his new mentor is just happy to have a front row seat with snacks. His insane dedication is turning heads because this kid trains like he's paying rent, not a day pass. But even the most intense training session can be derailed by the sound of your mentor loudly eating chips. He blames the snacks for his distraction, but he's really about to ask for the one thing that will let him fight back for real. But his mentor hits him with a brutal truth. Monsters don't care if you're distracted. He tells him that in a real dungeon, getting flustered by a snack wrapper is a death sentence. And the final verdict, delivered with a crunch: you lack training. Taekyung is completely thrown, asking how this stranger seems to know his every weakness. He gets defensive, demanding to know why this guy is tearing him down without knowing the hell he's been through. But his mentor isn't here for a sob story. He cuts him off with a cold, "I get that." He admits the kid has the raw talent and the physical gifts to be great. But his actual skill is so bad, the mentor can literally walk circles around him without breaking a sweat. And then comes the first real lesson. His power is a constant drain, and he's using it all wrong. The diagnosis is simple. He's all power and no precision, which is just a fancy way of saying he's still useless. He tells him that pros don't waste power. They use just enough to get the job done, and he's about to demonstrate. And with less effort than it takes to open that bag of chips, he unleashes a surgical strike. The attack hits its target with pinpoint accuracy, and Taegyong can't believe his eyes. And the mentor's casual "get it" is met with the stunned silence of a kid who just saw the impossible. Because he didn't just destroy the cans, he did it with so much control that the snacks on top are completely untouched. But the lesson isn't over, because the mentor drops a truth bomb. Taegyong doesn't even know his own true power. He pulls out a mysterious artifact, a tool used to summon returnees, and tells him to bring it close to his chains. The chains immediately react, and the mentor's smug grin confirms he just proved a theory he's had all along. The mentor asks him to remember the hospital, and Taegyong flashes back to the moment he held his sister in the ruins of her meltdown. Because he wasn't just a bystander, he saw the exact moment Taegyong's chains made contact with his sister. Because in that moment, his chains didn't just stop her, they completely shut down an S-class returnee. In other words, the F-rank failure has the one power nobody knew existed, the ability to seal a returnee. The mentor looks him dead in the eye and confirms it. His useless chains are an anti-returnee cheat code. But he's not done dropping truth bombs, telling him that raw power without a plan is just a waste of time. And Taegyong finally asks the million-dollar question, who the hell is this guy? Turns out he's a professor at Seunghyun Academy, the very school that crushed his dreams with a rejection letter. And he's not here for a training session. He's here to offer our boy the one thing he thought he'd never get. Taegyong's brain short-circuits because Seunghyun is the name of the place that told him to give up. He stammers about his failed test, but his new mentor just brushes it off because rules are for people who don't have world-breaking powers. He tells him the choice is his, offering him the golden ticket he's been bleeding for his entire life. The mentor lays it all on the table, asking the one question that could change everything. After a lifetime of rejection, our boy finally gets to say the words he's been dreaming of. And the professor's smug grin says it all. Welcome to the big leagues, kid. Just like that, the dream he bled for is handed to him on a silver platter. But his acceptance letter comes with a surprise accessory, a mysterious portal opening right at his feet. The professor isn't just handing out scholarships, he's activating a full-blown summoning. And crashing the party is a man who looks like he eats S-class hunters for breakfast. The newcomer isn't here for a friendly chat. He's here to call out the professor by name and demand answers. He accuses the professor of scheming, and that look in his eyes says this is about way more than one F-rank kid. But the professor just throws the accusation right back, because this little recruitment session just walked into a high-level power struggle. The newcomer isn't just anyone. He's here to hold the professor accountable, and he's not asking nicely. He's not just angry, he's accusing the professor of pulling a cheap trick, and he's not falling for it. And just when you think this couldn't get more complicated, Taegyong realizes the S-class powerhouse who just crashed his party is his dad. But the professor just laughs it off, casually insulting the most dangerous man in the room like they're old rivals. Dad's not here for jokes. He's here for answers, and he's about to tear this gym apart to get them. The professor plays it cool, pretending he just sent a couple of recommendation letters, leaving Taegyong to connect the dots between his mentor and his father. And then he drops the bombshell. He didn't just recruit the F-rank failure, he recruited his S-class sister too. Dad's answer is a hard no, trying to shield his daughter, but he's about to find out he has no say in the matter. The professor just smirks because her inability to adjust is the exact reason she needs his help. He lays out the terrifying truth. His daughter isn't a miracle. She's a ticking time bomb, and Seunghyun Academy is the only place that can defuse her. Dad insists he can train his own daughter, but the professor hits him with a hard, "No, you can't." The professor calls him out on his stubborn pride, and you can tell this isn't their first argument. And then Dad throws his own son under the bus, calling him a talentless nobody right to his face. He's not just crushing his son's dream, he's telling him it's a one-way ticket to the grave. But for the first time ever, someone stands up for our boy, and the professor is not holding back. He throws Dad's words right back at him, because he saw the kid charge into an S-class meltdown without a second thought. He's not just defending Taegyong, he's challenging the world's strongest hunter to admit he's wrong about his own son. But Dad just twists his son's heroism into a fatal flaw, calling it reckless stupidity. And then he turns the tables, putting his son on trial and forcing him to admit he ran in completely blind. Taegyong can't even answer because the truth is he had no plan, just a desperate need to save the one person he had left. Dad's not done twisting his son's one victory into a lucky accident. He calls his son's strategy a one-way ticket to the morgue, and you can see the last bit of Taegyong's spirit just die. And then comes the final blow. You'll be crushed, turning his son's dream school into a nightmare. But the professor just laughs, basically telling the world's strongest hunter to go cry to the principal. And our boy is stuck in the crossfire, wondering why his father is fighting so hard to keep him a failure. All he ever wanted was to hear his dad say, "Good job," just once. He saved his sister, and all he gets is a lecture because in this family, heroes don't get praised. And you can see him physically holding back a lifetime of begging for a single word of approval. But the family drama is interrupted by a new face with a smug grin and a name that isn't his. And suddenly, the fight isn't about him anymore because his father's eyes are locked on the real threat in the room. The newcomer cuts through the noise, trying to remind Taegyong that he just won the lottery. But our boy is so used to losing, he can't even accept the win, still paralyzed by his father's rejection. So the stranger gives him the one piece of advice his father never would. Trust yourself. And in one sentence, this new guy offers the validation Taegyong has been craving his entire life. With that, the fire his father tried so hard to extinguish finally reignites. Because he's right, you don't need approval from anyone. Especially not from a father who's been blind to his son's real strength all along. Dad's cold "I see" isn't an agreement. It's the sound of a man realizing he's just lost control. But the stranger finally puts it all together, realizing Taegyong's obsession was never about being a hero. It was always about the one man he could never impress. Dad goes nuclear, blaming the professor for giving his son the one thing he never would: hope. And all that pressure finally makes our boy crack, caught between his father's rage and a stranger's kindness. But this isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough, and he thanks the one guy who helped him see clearly. He finally admits it. At first, it really was all about his father. He just wanted to be the hero his dad was, chasing a shadow that never looked back. He calls his own dreams pathetic, a desperate need for approval from a man who only gave him scorn. But saving his sister changed everything, because for the first time he wasn't fighting for his dad. In that moment, he wasn't the pathetic kid anymore. He was the hero he was always meant to be. And with that one realization, the decision that will define his entire future is made. He looks his father dead in the eye and declares war, ready to fight the one man standing in his way. And that's the look of a father realizing his son is no longer afraid of him. He's not just angry, he's seeing a rebellion he always knew was coming. He decides talking is over, because some lessons have to be beaten into you. So he makes his move, ready to end this little rebellion before it even starts. But our boy calls his bluff, daring the world's strongest hunter to try and stop him. He's scared out of his mind, but for the first time, he's not backing down. But instead of a fight, Dad hits him with a prophecy. This path will only lead to his destruction. And then he drops a condition so unexpected, it short-circuits the entire room. Get into the student council. The deal is simple. Prove you're not a failure in 1 year, or he'll drag him home himself. And then comes the second condition, the one that changes everything. Protect your sister. The professor just rolls his eyes because Dad is finally agreeing to a plan that was his idea in the first place. And the threat isn't just for him, it's for his sister too. Fail, and they're both getting dragged home. With his future on the line, our boy accepts the impossible challenge. And with the ultimatum delivered, the world's strongest hunter walks away, leaving nothing but chaos in his wake. The three of them are left standing in the wreckage of a family drama they didn't sign up for. Taegyong finally exhales, admitting he genuinely thought his own father was about to erase him. But the family drama isn't over because the stranger is about to call out the professor for his insane plan. He lays it out plain and simple. Telling him to get into the student council wasn't a challenge, it was a death sentence. Because the student council is a club for geniuses, and our boy just got handed an F-rank ticket to an impossible game. But the professor just shrugs it off, basically saying, if the kid wants to play with the big dogs, he'd better learn to bite. But the stranger cuts through the tension, and you realize he's not talking to our boy, he's calling out the professor. And the professor admits he never wanted to drag another kid into this life of chaos. Because the stranger reveals his own secret. He started out just like Taegyong, chasing his father's shadow. And now he's watching his mentor walk away, realizing he just pushed our boy down the same broken path. A month later, his sister is all smiles, holding the admission letter that just painted a giant target on her back. While she's celebrating, Taegyong is training like his life depends on it, because it literally does. And just like that, it's time to go. Welcome to the Seunghyun Academy cruise ship, a floating high school for future legends and walking disasters. He's ready for war, she's ready for summer camp, and neither of them has a clue what's waiting for them on the other side.